In a world filled with noise, distraction, and deception, there are rare moments when truth rises quietly and shakes the very foundation of power. Today, you're not just watching a speech, you're witnessing a shift in history. This is not about politics alone, it's about purpose, about standing firm when the world wants you to bend. As you listen, open your heart and mind. What you're about to hear is more than words, it's a spiritual awakening of a nation that refuses to be ignored. Stay with us till the end. This will stir your soul and ignite your spirit. Jaishankar's strategic diplomacy has become a global case study in quiet strength and calculated precision. Unlike leaders who chase headlines or engage in emotional rhetoric, Jaishankar has crafted a style of diplomacy that relies on timing, clarity, and depth. He doesn't react, he responds. Every word, every statement, every move he makes on the international stage feels deliberate, studied, and razor-sharp. Whether speaking at global forums or during high-stakes bilateral talks, his language remains firm yet respectful, direct yet diplomatic. This balance allows him to deliver strong messages without burning bridges. His strategic diplomacy lies in his ability to navigate multiple power blocks, managing relationships with the West, while maintaining old and deepening new ties with nations like Russia, Iran, and emerging African powers. He keeps India neutral where needed, assertive where required, and silent when silence itself becomes the loudest answer. His silence, in fact, often unsettles his opponents more than outrage ever could. He understands that diplomacy is not about grandstanding, but influence, and influence is best built slowly and silently. He speaks the language of global power players while never losing grip of India's core interests. Whether it's defending India's stand on buying Russian oil, challenging unfair Western narratives, or advocating for reform in multilateral institutions like the United Nations, his diplomatic strategies are not reactive but reflective of a long-term vision. This is not accidental. Jaishankar's long experience as a seasoned diplomat and foreign secretary has allowed him to anticipate moves before they happen and prepare accordingly. His game is not about quick wins but long-term positioning. He doesn't play for applause, he plays for outcome. And that is what makes his diplomacy not just effective, but deeply respected by allies and carefully watched by rivals. His bold stance on Western hypocrisy has become one of the most defining traits of Jaishankar's diplomacy. In a world where powerful nations often speak of rules and values but apply them selectively, Jaishankar refuses to stay silent. He has directly called out the West for expecting compliance from countries like India, while they themselves bend or break those very rules when it suits their interests. Whether it's trade policies, military alliances, or humanitarian concerns, Jaishankar doesn't hesitate to expose the double standards that have long been hidden beneath diplomatic language. During global forums and interviews, he has openly questioned why Europe's concerns are treated as global, but when India raises its issues, they are labeled as regional. He has highlighted how the West lectures others on buying oil from sanctioned nations, while continuing their own imports under different pretexts. His calm yet piercing observations dismantle the moral superiority many Western leaders try to project, and he does it without raising his voice or seeking applause. His approach is rooted in facts and historical context. He draws attention to colonial legacies, ongoing power imbalances, and the manipulation of global institutions that were built to favor a select few. This challenges the narrative that Western countries are always right, or that they have the exclusive right to define morality on the world stage. Instead of aligning blindly with Western agendas, he insists that India will make decisions based on its own national interest and sovereign principles. By doing this, Jaishankar sends a powerful message. India will no longer accept being treated as a junior partner. His bold stance doesn't just earn admiration at home, it also forces the global elite to confront uncomfortable truths they have long avoided. Through direct language and a firm tone, he's redefining what it means to be a global leader from the global south. India's neutral position in global conflicts under Jaishankar's leadership has emerged as a key pillar of its independent foreign policy. At a time when global powers attempt to polarize the world into rigid blocks, urging nations to pick sides, India has firmly refused to be drawn into such binary choices. Jaishankar has made it clear that India will not be a pawn in global power games. Instead, it will chart its own course, guided by its national interests and long-term vision. During the Ukraine-Russia war, when Western nations demanded that India condemn and isolate Russia, India chose a path of strategic autonomy. It continued diplomatic ties with both sides while securing energy deals and pushing for peace through dialogue. Similarly, in the Israel-Palestine conflict, India has voiced concern for civilian casualties on both sides, balancing its historical support for Palestine with its growing relationship with Israel. This balanced approach has shown the world that neutrality does not mean passivity. Under Jaishankar's guidance, it is an active and deliberate stance, one that allows India to engage with all stakeholders while staying above the fray. It enhances India's credibility as a potential mediator and strengthens its image as a mature and responsible global power. Jaishankar has repeatedly emphasized that India will not accept externally imposed choices. Whether it's relations with China, the West, or regional actors, India's positions are not dictated by fear or favor, but by careful assessment of evolving realities. By refusing to be drawn into alliances that compromise sovereignty or strategic flexibility, India has preserved its ability to maneuver in a volatile global environment. This neutral posture has earned India respect among developing nations and rising powers who also seek autonomy in a world dominated by major geopolitical rivalries. UN stage impact under Jaishankar's leadership has become a defining symbol of India's rising diplomatic confidence. When he speaks at the United Nations, it's not merely a formality or tradition, it becomes a moment of global significance. His tone, words, and delivery command attention, often leaving even the most powerful nations reassessing their positions. With calm assertiveness, he presents India's stance with depth, clarity, and conviction, refusing to conform to the usual scripted narratives pushed by global power centers. At the UN General Assembly and other major forums, Jaishankar has addressed sensitive issues like terrorism, global inequality, vaccine distribution, and the need for multilateral reforms with fearless clarity. He has often criticized the outdated structure of the United Nations, especially the Security Council, pointing out that it no longer reflects the realities of today's world. By doing so, he gives voice not only to India's aspirations, but also to many countries from the global south who feel similarly sidelined. His speeches do not rely on dramatic gestures, but on truth and historical context. He questions why a country with over 1.4 billion people, a major contributor to global peacekeeping, and one of the world's fastest-growing economies, is still denied a permanent seat at the Security Council. This question hits at the very legitimacy of the UN structure and resonates with a wide international audience. Jaishankar also uses the UN platform to call for a more equitable world order, one that recognizes diverse perspectives instead of enforcing uniformity through pressure. His presence at the UN represents a shift from defensive diplomacy to proactive leadership. India, under his guidance, is no longer asking for a seat at the table with folded hands, it is asserting that it belongs there, with a calm yet firm authority that's impossible to ignore. Refusal to bow under Western pressure has become one of the most defining aspects of Jaishankar's foreign policy approach. In a world where major powers often expect smaller or developing nations to align with their interests, India under Jaishankar has consistently made it clear that it will not be bullied, cornered, or dictated to. This firm posture marks a significant shift from the past, where diplomatic language was often cautious and overly accommodating. One of the most visible examples of this is India's response to pressure regarding its energy trade with Russia. Despite repeated warnings, criticisms, and even subtle threats from Western countries, Jaishankar stood his ground and defended India's decision to buy oil based on economic and strategic necessity. He stated firmly that Europe's own energy purchases were far greater, And if India's decisions help stabilize its economy and support its population, then no external pressure could change that course. This mindset extends beyond just energy. Whether it is arms deals, trade agreements, or technology partnerships, India has consistently chosen what is best for its own growth rather than bowing to alliances or ideological agendas. Jaishankar often points out that India's relationships are not built to please one side or another. They are constructed on mutual respect and long-term value. His assertiveness doesn't come across as aggressive, but as composed strength. He listens, he negotiates, but he does not compromise when it comes to sovereignty. This approach has resonated strongly within India and has also earned respect internationally, especially among countries that often face similar pressures but lack the voice or leverage to resist. By standing firm in the face of global demands, Jaishankar has helped reposition India as an equal, not a follower. His leadership reflects a nation that knows its worth and will no longer play second to anyone. Strengthening global South alliances has become a strategic priority under Jaishankar's diplomatic leadership. As traditional global powers focus on their internal politics and established alliances, India has taken bold steps to reconnect with countries across Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Pacific. This outreach isn't driven by charity or optics, it's rooted in shared history, mutual struggles, and the urgent need for a more balanced global order. Jaishankar has repeatedly emphasized that the voices of the global South have long been ignored in international institutions. These countries often face the brunt of economic inequality, climate change, and geopolitical disruptions, yet have minimal influence in shaping global decisions. By positioning India as a champion of their concerns, Jaishankar is redefining India's global identity from a rising power to a responsible and representative one. India has provided developmental aid, medical support, digital infrastructure, and training programs to many of these nations. During the pandemic, India's Vaccine Maitri initiative, which delivered vaccines to over 100 countries, earned global praise and trust, especially among poorer nations. Jaishankar has built on this goodwill by expanding cooperation in areas like renewable energy, agriculture, education, and digital innovation. What makes his approach powerful is the tone of equality. Unlike the West's often patronizing style, Jaishankar treats global South nations as partners, not recipients. He doesn't speak for them, he speaks with them. Whether it's calling for reforms at the United Nations or pushing for fair climate finance mechanisms, India, under his guidance, acts as a bridge between the marginalized and the powerful. This renewed alliance with the global South not only boosts India's moral leadership, but also increases its diplomatic leverage. By aligning with dozens of like-minded countries, India amplifies its voice on the world stage and helps shift the global conversation toward justice, inclusion, and fairness. Standing firm against media narratives has become a signature trait of Jaishankar's foreign policy approach. In a world where global media often sets biased narratives that favor Western perspectives, Jaishankar has taken a bold stand by directly challenging these portrayals and refusing to be cornered by one-sided reporting. He recognizes that perception is power, and for too long, the image of India has been shaped not by Indians, but by external commentators who neither understand the country's complexities nor respect its sovereignty. Whenever international media outlets have attempted to paint India's policies as regressive, intolerant, or aligned with controversial global actors, Jaishankar has responded with facts, calm confidence, and sharp reasoning. He has openly questioned why Western nations can take hardline decisions in the name of national interest. But when India does the same, it is criticized or judged. His consistent message is clear. India's choices are made by India, not to please global headlines or fit foreign expectations. What makes his response powerful is the way he remains composed while exposing inconsistencies. He often flips the narrative back to the questioners, asking them to examine their own records on issues like human rights, immigration, or press freedom before lecturing others. This strategy not only protects India's image, but also forces accountability on media outlets that are rarely challenged by other global leaders. His refusal to entertain biased questioning without pushback sends a strong message to the world. India will no longer allow its story to be told through a distorted lens. It will speak for itself on its own terms. In doing so, Jaishankar has become a symbol of assertive diplomacy that doesn't just defend national interests, but reclaims the power to define them. This shift has strengthened India's voice globally and inspired other nations to speak up for themselves as well. Final move hint. Strategic global realignment refers to Jaishankar's quiet but powerful efforts to reposition India's role in the world by reshaping its alliances, partnerships, and global priorities. While many nations remain locked in Cold War-style thinking, choosing rigid sides between the West and its rivals, India under Jaishankar has chosen a more flexible, multi-aligned path. This shift is not chaotic or reactionary. It is a calculated strategy designed to serve India's long-term national interests while challenging outdated geopolitical structures. Rather than blindly aligning with traditional powers, Jaishankar has focused on building new frameworks of cooperation. India has deepened ties with countries like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Iran, while simultaneously maintaining partnerships with the United States, Russia, France, Japan, and Australia. It has also invested heavily in regional forums such as the Quad, BRICS, SCO, I2U2, and the India-Africa Forum. This global realignment shows India is no longer confined to its neighborhood or traditional partners. It is everywhere that matters. This broader, more independent approach allows India to balance relationships with competing powers while avoiding entanglement in their rivalries. By not taking sides in the Russia-Ukraine conflict or the US-China trade war, India has kept its doors open for economic, security, and strategic cooperation from multiple directions. This global balancing act signals a new diplomatic maturity, one that places India's interests at the center of every decision. Jaishankar's final move is not an isolated event, but a culmination of this entire strategy. It points toward a future where India doesn't merely participate in global affairs, it shapes them. His realignment agenda is not about pleasing one bloc or rejecting another. It is about creating an India-centric global path where sovereignty, strategic autonomy, and multipolar cooperation define the world's next chapter. The shock element, quiet execution with massive ripple effect, captures the essence of how Jaishankar operates on the global stage. Unlike many leaders who make loud declarations or seek constant media attention, Jaishankar believes in silent strength. His most impactful decisions are rarely announced with fanfare, but they create waves that disrupt established global expectations. This approach reflects a deep understanding of diplomacy, that influence is not always built through visibility, but through precision and timing. He often works behind the scenes, building strategic ties, negotiating trade and security deals, and reshaping global alliances with a calm demeanor and minimal noise. By the time the world realizes the impact of his actions, the move has already taken effect and started altering the balance of power. This style not only protects India's interests from premature resistance, but also demonstrates a level of strategic foresight that catches global observers off guard. For instance, India's oil deals with Russia during Western sanctions, its increased presence in African and West Asian diplomatic circles, and its active role in forums like BRICS and the Quad were not announced as major triumphs, yet each of these developments shifted India's global position significantly. While other countries debated and postured, Jaishankar ensured India acted with purpose and clarity, leaving behind a trail of strategic gains. This quiet execution creates a ripple effect because it changes the expectations placed on India. The world is now beginning to see India not just as a rising power, but as an unpredictable force that doesn't follow scripted roles. It refuses to be boxed into traditional alliances or outdated assumptions. Through steady, thoughtful actions, Jaishankar has made it clear that India's diplomacy is not about noise, it's about impact. And that's what truly shocks the world when the results finally come into view. India's rise is no longer a prophecy, it's a present reality, speaks to the transformation of India from a country with future potential to a nation that is actively shaping the global order. For decades, India was viewed as an emerging power full of promise, but always on the way. Under Jaishankar's leadership, that narrative has shifted dramatically. Today, India is not just preparing to lead, it is already leading in diplomacy, economy, technology, and strategic affairs. This rise is visible in India's ability to make independent foreign policy decisions without external approval. It reflects in its economic strength, space achievements, digital infrastructure, and its global voice in institutions like the G20, BRICS, and the United Nations. Jaishankar has played a key role in projecting this confidence. Through his words and actions, he has asserted that India does not seek permission to act in its interests. It seeks respect and demands it through performance, not pity. From crisis management during the COVID-19 pandemic to maintaining balanced relations with competing superpowers, India has demonstrated maturity far beyond what many expected. It is now a preferred partner for many regions, not because of size alone, but because of stability, trustworthiness, and strategic clarity. Nations across the global south and even the West look to India not just as an ally, but as a voice of balance in an increasingly chaotic world. Jaishankar represents this shift with precision and composure. His diplomacy is a reflection of a larger transformation, a country once described in terms of potential, now being defined by its performance. The world no longer talks about what India might become someday. It is now acknowledging what India already is, a confident, capable, and central force in global affairs, reshaping the future with conviction and quiet power. India is no longer waiting for the world to recognize its strength. It is moving forward with purpose, clarity, and unwavering resolve. Through Jaishankar's calm yet powerful diplomacy, India has shown that true leadership doesn't require noise, just vision and courage. The world has been shaken not by aggression, but by intelligence and integrity. This is India's moment, and it's just the beginning. Thank you for watching. Stay inspired, stay informed, and never stop believing in the power of truth. May your journey be filled with wisdom, strength, and purpose. Good luck, and may you rise with honor.